thee, O Lord, with my whole heart. I will show forth all thy marvelous works. I will be glad and rejoice in thee. I will sing praise to thy name, O thou Most High. When mine enemies are turned back, they shall fall and perish at thy presence. For thou hast maintained my right in my cause. Thou sattest in the throne judging right. Thou hast rebuked the heathen. Thou hast destroyed the wicked. Thou hast put out their name forever and ever. O thou enemy, destructions are come to a perpetual end, and thou hast destroyed cities. Their memorial is perished with them. But the Lord shall endure forever. He hath prepared his throne for judgment. And he shall judge the world in righteousness. He shall minister judgment to the people in uprightness. The Lord also will be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble, and they that know thy name will put their trust in thee. For thou, Lord, hast not forsaken them that seek thee. Sing praises to the Lord, which dwelleth in Zion. Declare among the people his doings. When he maketh inquisition for blood, he remembereth them. He forgetteth not the cry of the humble. Have mercy upon me, O Lord. Consider my trouble which I suffer of them that hate me, thou that liftest me up from the gates of death. That I may show forth all thy praise in the gates of the daughter of Zion. I will rejoice in thy salvation. The heathen are sunk down in the pit that they made, and the net which they hid is their own foot taken. The Lord is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. Higgaion, Salah. The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God. For the needy shall not always be forgotten, the expectation of the poor shall not perish forever. Arise, O Lord. Let not man prevail. Let the heathen be judged in thy sight. Put them in fear, O Lord, that the nations may know themselves to be but men. Salah. I will praise thee, O Lord, with my whole heart. I will show forth all thy marvelous works. I will be glad and rejoice in thee. I will sing praise to thy name, O thou Most High. When mine enemies are turned back, they shall fall and perish at thy presence. For thou hast maintained my right in my cause. Thou right. Thou hast rebuked the heathen. Thou hast destroyed the wicked. Thou hast put out their name forever and ever. O thou enemy, destructions are come to a perpetual end, and thou hast destroyed cities. Their memorial is perished with them. But the Lord shall endure forever. He hath prepared his throne for judgment. And he shall judge the world in righteousness. He shall minister The Lord also will be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble, and they that know thy name will put their trust in thee. For thou, Lord, hast not forsaken them that seek thee. To the Lord, which dwelleth in Zion, declare among the people his doings. When he maketh inquisition for blood, he remembereth them. He forgetteth not the cry of the humble. Have mercy upon me, O Lord. Consider my trouble which I suffer of them that hate me, thou that liftest me up from the gates of death. That I may show forth all thy praise in the gates of the daughter of Zion, I will rejoice in thy salvation. The heathen are sunk down in the pit that they made, and the net which they hid is their own foot taken. The Lord is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. Higgaion, Salah. The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God. For the needy shall not always be forgotten, The expectation of the poor shall not perish forever. Arise, O Lord. Let not man prevail. Let the heathen be judged in thy sight. Put them in fear, O Lord, that the nations may know themselves to be but men. Selah. I will praise thee, O Lord, with my whole heart. I will show forth all thy marvelous works. I will be glad and rejoice in thee. I will sing praise to thy name, O thou most high. When mine enemies are turned back, they shall fall and perish at thy presence. For thou hast maintained my right in my cause. Thou sattest in the throne judging right. Thou hast rebuked the heathen. Thou hast destroyed the wicked. Thou hast put out their name forever and ever. O thou enemy, destructions are come to a perpetual end, and thou hast destroyed cities. Their memorial is perished with them. But the Lord shall endure forever. He hath
Divine Rising, Divine Rising. How are we doing today? Had the mic off. As I prepare, I get so deep in the sauce. What do we have here? We have the white, a lot of black, gray. I think FX, name is a tongue twister. FX Wealth. I think you were right twice. I think you were right yesterday. Divine Rising to everybody. We got a big surprise coming Monday I've been working on, and it's a way that we can build more community and also have us engage more. So I have a big surprise. Hopefully I have it ready by Monday. And so you guys, it has something to do with when I asked you to kind of predict which kufi I would be wearing. That was part of kind of engaging your psychic practices so that they become more, you become more in tune to them. You become more of your spiritual self as opposed to just leaving it in this space that we practice in. I want you to take it into your world. And I want you to remember your divinity. I know we think that we are in these physical bodies, and that tends to be all that we are. But I want to challenge you to understand your divinity, understand your oneness with source, however you receive it, that you are connected to source. And it's almost no indistinguishable difference between you and God. We've been taught incorrectly that God is outside of us. That's something else I want to talk about, prayer. Give me 1 second. I was writing notes and I want to make sure that I get to all the different notes because we're going to be talking today about how to be free from religious slavery by de-ritualizing yourself. And that's the one I was trying to think of. But how to be free from religious slavery by de-ritualizing yourself. I think it's a very timely topic because we need to understand that as we move into higher states of consciousness, right, that we're going to have to let go of a lot of things. And when I say higher states of consciousness, I'm talking about when we move into 5D reality, as opposed to being in 3D reality, we have to let a lot of things go. And we have to, Divine Rising, we have to We are not going to be able to take everything. We can't take any of this with us into 5D. And so let's start our practices, and then we'll start with our conversation. I hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for joining me. We're going to be doing 3 practices. So, as Source lays out this plan, it seems to be very interesting to me how it's being laid out. And I wonder if you guys really are really seeing how this path is being laid out to us. We're going to have 3 numbers. That's 3, 2, and 1. This is part of our remote viewing exercise. I'm going to move these numbers around, and you can keep track of where I place the Palo Santos. Okay. I think most people would agree, or maybe not, that we as a conscious collective don't or do believe in God. We are drawn to this conscious concept of God is because we want to understand God better. We want to be more in line with God as fully as we can understand it, as fully as our inquisitive mind can understand it. And so in that journey, it was on 2. We're not leaving God. I said it that way. God. We're not leaving God. We don't say there is no God. What we want to do is experience it more fully in the capacity that we can. That is with our senses and understanding and critical thinking. If you come in here and you engage and you just say Jesus saves and drop mic, you drop the mic like you said something, that does not fulfill our need, our understanding, because we search for deeper meaning in things, deeper understanding. That's 3. But before I get off too much on that part, I want to kind of put the wheels on the wagon, give a framework of what we're sharing with each other, and that is that in our belief in something greater than ourselves, we come to an understanding that maybe that is part of us. I hope that makes sense. Whatever we seek, that's something greater than ourselves. We come to this understanding that maybe we're part of it. We're doing a little psychic practice to reawaken our psychic abilities. And this is one example of how we demonstrate or how we try to connect with that greater something that we might have part of that divine gift or be associated with that supernatural part of what we experience as something greater. And so when we're doing our psychic practice, it is to engage something else in us beyond our normal senses. It's on 3. They are starting to describe what ancient people or primitive people already knew, right? That there is something more to the universe than just the 5 senses that we can perceive. Scientists are now calling it quantum mechanics. Things are connected beyond ways they cannot understand. And we're getting at the threshold, I was on 2, of really experiencing that divine source or God in a more meaningful way. Because, like, think about it like this. If you have been demonstrating some psychic abilities or some type of intuitive gift, it would be natural for you to think, where does this come from? Where is this? Why can I? How can I do this? And then you start to look at a larger meaning or a larger connection to something else. I placed it on 2. We're doing a psychic practice. Remote viewing is part of 3 practices that we do. I hope we continue to do. I do have some more, another practice I want to bring on board Monday, if I can get to developing it. But today we're going to be talking about how to be free from religious slavery by de-ritualizing yourself. And I'm not going to get into it too deep now because I want to have something to talk about. I want to have something to talk about. I want to start talking about it during the practice, and then we don't have anything to talk about. And I'll be like, okay, you guys have a great weekend. How are you guys doing? I don't mean physically, mentally. I mean with the practice. Are you seeing the numbers? Are you engaging? Some 2. We're going to move to our next practice. This is the last one. I'm placing the little Palo Santos on one of the numbers. Oh, you're not doing that well? Don't worry about it. Remember, we show each other, we show our gifts love. We don't disparage them. We show them love, because a lot of things can be interfering with our gifts because we live in a world full of interference. We live in a world full of static and noise. And sometimes that can cause some type of interference with our gift. We can have blocks in ourselves that prevent us from aligning ourselves with our highest version of ourselves. I mean, just even understanding of you being God can sometimes be very challenging to people. If I asked you, how do you perceive divine source? How do you perceive God? You probably would have an image in your mind immediately of some figure, probably white if you're in America, right? That would be automatically in your mind. Even though you will correct yourself and you'll try to change it, you know that comes to your mind because you've been brainwashed like that God, and it's part of your nature to try to humanize things. You know, people try to give dogs and things of human traits and, even other things, seeing things, they try to humanize it. Just part of your mental makeup. But if I asked you to see God in the mirror, to see God as yourself, that would be a little bit more challenging. That would be more challenging for you to see God as yourself, to immediately, if I said, how do you recognize God? And you said, Baba, I see myself. That would be a little bit more challenging for some of us to really understand that concept, because we've been almost brainwashed and conditioned that we would even see somebody else as God. Some people might say, well, my pastor represents God to me, or my priest, or some other thing than yourself. We're going to do our Zender card trainings. You see the symbols on the screen. Please just take note of the one that you think will come up next. This is our precognition practice. I'll just pull the cards and I'll try to show them so they can be seen on the screen as we talk. Greetings, greetings, greetings. This is a new person sending divine love. I thank you for joining us. We are doing our psychic practices before we get into our talk today on how to be free from religious slavery by de-ritualizing ourselves. Nature is a great place to start as we start to understand divine source better. And you have to remember that you are a product, that you are nature. You've been removed from it, but you still are nature. We were talking about morality yesterday, and I wanted to kind of finish up on it a little bit. All right. A lot of people say that divine feminine should have the right to express themselves any way they want to, even if it's overly sexual. And I agree with that. I agree with that. Right? Because the nature of the feminine energy is attractiveness. And so it's so funny when people have this argument that men aren't attractive. Men are not meant to be attractive. They're not meant to be attractive. All right. Women are meant to be attractive. And I thought that was such a weird thing. Like, these men are beat. I mean, I don't know what men they talking about, because I'm not part of that. But these men are beat, right? And I'm like, they're not supposed to be attractive. Women are supposed to be attractive. Women are supposed to be appealing. So that is the nature. All right. Birds are going to fly and fish are going to swim. You can write that down somewhere. All right. Birds are going to fly and fish are going to swim. We're getting away from, so far removed from our connection, our understanding, the lessons that are meant for us when we look at nature. So getting back to what I said, women, are supposed to be sexual. I mean, I'm not discouraging anyone that finds what gets them hot in other like men or things like that. I mean, that if that's your thing, that's your thing. It's never been my thing. I like the soft, the smell, the feel. I don't need to feel my leg rubbing against my leg. It scares me. Don't disparage my taste. This is my taste, okay? I'm not disparaging yours. All right. But my bigger point in that, are you seeing these shapes? Is anyone seeing these shapes? My bigger point in that is that if we did everything that we wanted to do in our nature, right? If women get to express themselves the way they want to in their nature, then the same can be said true of men. A lot of times men want to get into anything. If you guys are picking up what I'm putting down, they want to stick it anywhere. That is their nature. They are hyper driven to plug something. Men develop or should develop the restraint to follow their nature. As you move into higher consciousness, right, you understand nature and then you try to apply it to your life. Are you guys following me? So if women are allowed to be in their natural state, wouldn't it be true that men should be in their natural state? What's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? If women are allowed to be what's natural to them, to be sexualized, to be, well, I look terrible doing that. Then why shouldn't men be allowed to be in their natural state and to go and plug everything that they want to plug? See, that doesn't work. That does not work. That's why we have to have a better understanding of nature. Not in the condemning of it, but to understand it. We're doing our psychic readings, trying to get a better understanding. I'm a little distracted because first thing in the morning, I got a bunch of texts about, unrelated business stuff. And I'm like, it's too early for all this. I got work to do. Because, in the morning I get ready for my talks. And I try to, I do it in the morning because I want to be fresh in my mind and I want to be engaged. I don't do them before because then it's old news to me and it's not as exciting. And then those that have been with me for a while, Nicole, we know this is Freestyle Friday. And we usually on TikTok, because TikTok has such a fluent algorithm, is really engaging more. And so we get to really roll on Friday. But I'm trying to build a conscious community that is separated by space or area. And I'm looking for more ways to engage the community and to help you guys, help us connect more. All right. Using this medium that we call social, which is a funny name for it. We're going to move to our last practice. How did you guys do? How did you do? Did you do pretty good in this precognition, predicting the next symbol to come up? I think, Nicole, we was on TikTok and you could just see the numbers rolling, just see people rolling and engaging. It used to be so funny. People like, oh, I love this. This is so fun. And I'm like, this is not a game. And I need to stop being so serious about the work that I do. And I'm like, this is not a game. This is literally trying to bring you back into your true self. This is literally trying to awaken you back to your true self, where you was one with all. And there was nothing that you did not know. And there was nothing that you could not do. And I have to do it in baby steps. And why do I teach it or share it as opposed to just doing it on my own? Because when I do it on my own, I lose connection to humanity. That's the only thing. This lag is crazy. Yep. I lose when you do it on your own and you develop your own gifts, you lose connection with other people. And sometimes, even now, I'm not going to share something that I had a discussion with someone unless they come in. Sign Trinity, are you in here? And you allow me to share part of how we said it'd be a good way of describing the differences between 3D and 5D. I have to check with her because she's a co-creator in that. A lot of people I engage with offline because you're my community. If you want to engage, just schedule a call. Let's connect. Let's discuss your journey. And we can go from there. All right. I have my all-seeing eye cards. They have different shapes and colors on them. They have words on them and a number. And I want you to read my mind on which one I am looking at. No, it's not. It's not. It's not. You're not bugging me. I think you, like we talked about how we're in spaces where we can't really readily share our true selves with people. And so it's nice to have a community where we can, share our ideas, share our insights. And so I usually become that focal point for a lot of people. A lot of people say because I actually encourage it. I don't disparage it. I don't understand it. A lot of times it is not in my wheelhouse. I am not the one to give answers to a lot of things. And I always ask, so what does it mean to you? What do you think about this? Because I want to encourage you in your gift and what you're receiving. So I don't think anyone bugs me. All right, I think I put this up. Where we at? Yeah, I don't judge. Hell, if I judge myself, I would scare me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so when I drive around, I don't listen to music. When I'm in a car, unless somebody's with me and they want to hear it, I don't really listen to music. I don't listen to that. It's not because I'm against it. I just don't listen to it. And my kids used to ask me, it's like, Daddy, why don't you listen to music when you're driving? And I said, because I want to hear the voices in my head when they start saying, attack, attack, attack. I don't want to miss the message. And that used to say, what? I want to hear, I'm listening to the voices in my head, so I don't want any distractions. That's why I don't listen to music. All right. I'm looking at a word, an image, a color, and a number. If you have a lot of distraction, and maybe even in that earlier state, I knew that there was something deeper. And I noticed that the world likes to keep you distracted and looking outside and not quiet, listening to that inner voice, to that inner self, which is you speaking. It is boundaries and a jaguar and 26. If we notice, they represented boundaries with a jaguar, which is very territorial. Setting boundaries is very important. You have to learn to say no, no, no. It's not a bad thing to say no. A lot of feminine energy thinks, oh, I have to be everything to everybody. I can't say no. I can't do this. I got to be, because you've been trained like that. Most of the stuff the way you respond is because you actually have been conditioned. That's not you. You have been conditioned that way. And I know it's hard to break conditioning. They said that in Juneteenth, when Black people found out that they were freed and the gates swung open and it was like, you are free now, a lot of Black people stayed there. They stayed there out of fear, out of uncertainty. Where are we going to go? You can go anywhere. Where are we going to go? You can do anything. What we going to do? And that's not to disparage them. That's to give you an understanding, an insight that when I open the gates and say, think what you will, be free, a lot of people turn around and say, well, you tell us. No, we're not going to do that again. And I probably could have a larger crowd, more people, if I was telling people, I'm just sharing my journey. And hopefully something resonates with you and you walk your path too. I'm looking at the divine feminine. It's like 2 half moons, a moon, and a number 06. We're not going to go back there again. We're not doing this religious thing. We're not going to do the religious thing. People ask, well, what do you guys believe? Well, we believe that we're learning. We believe that we're expanding our mind. We believe that we are raising our consciousness. That what may be true at that point, or maybe be true for that person, is not necessarily the truth for everybody. Oh no, that ain't gonna never work. You got to write something down. You got to tell people. You got to give them 10 commandments. You got to let them know. Well, there's things that they could do if they want to know things. They can go into religions. If they want that structure, they can pick it's a billion religions out there. You can pick any religion if you want that structure. But when you are a higher consciousness individual, right, you seek to understand what is true in your journey. This is a feather and it's truth, and the number is 25. We're looking at a bluish color. I don't know, maybe that's too vague, maybe that's too open. You know, I do share some of my thoughts and beliefs on conspiracies. I encourage people, find something that most people would think is incredible, unbelievable, that that the norm or society would not agree with. Hold that tight, hold that conspiracy tight to you, right? Because that shows a critical mind. That shows that you're going to think. You're going to think on your own. You are going to accept just what is told to you. And then we find out that a lot of what people thought were conspiracies is a dark color. Did anyone see a dark color circle? You notice I talk while we're doing this because I don't want you to force the concept of what's in my mind. I want you to just receive it. Most of our gifts are just about letting them flow, not overthinking them, just being in that moment. All right. It's new moon and 45. I used to share this on TikTok and it got eaten up. To those that are in the psychic class tomorrow, we do this for an hour tomorrow. I think we're going to still hold the class. I got to check my schedule, but if you see the link, or I send those that are in the class the link. If I don't see the link, we're not going to be holding the class, but I probably will have time to do it tomorrow. It's a lot going on. I'm looking at a color, a shape, and a number. If you're not part of our psychic class, please sign up for the newsletter so you can receive that link to be part of that psychic class. But we're going to finish this up and go into our talk. Today, we're going to be talking about how to free yourself from religious slavery by de-ritualizing yourself. We are familiar what rituals are, or we're not. I will give you a definition of it. And then we're going to set ourselves free by de-ritualizing ourselves. We need to break our conditioning so we can move to our higher states of self. It is a spiral. Growth is the ideal card. And it's the number 15. Let's let this be the last one. I'm looking at a shape. I'm looking at a color. And I'm looking at a number. I'm asking the conscious collective to think of a color, a shape, and a number. I feel so discombobulated. I don't know if it's my energy or someone else's energy. I just feel discombobulated. See, a lot of times you can feel a certain way, and if you're very empathic, it may not be you, but you because you're so empathic, you assume it's you feeling that way. And so you have to think like, is this me? And then do a conscious check, or is this energy I'm picking up from someone else? And it doesn't have to be in proximity, because there is no space like that in our in the actual understanding. Everything happens in proximity. It's not like just because the person is across on the other side of the planet doesn't mean that there's some lag in what you're feeling from them. You understand what I'm saying? You can still be feeling it in real time. This is the concept we're starting to understand, that we are connected in what they call, quantum mechanics, or what I like to call oneness with all. And as you raise your vibration and empathy goes past the heart and you go to the crown chakra, I know, and then yes, your connection to all. Thank you for joining me. For those being part of this conversation, the word is power. I don't know why this represents power, because I have no idea what it is. If you know what it is, please comment what that is. But it is represented as a power. It looks almost magical to me, like something a magician would carry around. So I have no idea what that is. The number is 46. If you know what that shape is, please enlighten me to what that is. That has been the Read My Mind part of our practice. Can I switch over to this? Beautiful. That worked fine. And so we're going to get into our discussion. It's kind of an open discussion. Feel free to comment. Please thumbs up this video and like it. And subscribe if you are not a subscriber. If you notice on my long form video channel, I have been putting Psalms readings on there. Psalms are actually spells. And so I decided to share different spells through different Psalms reading. All right. And I encourage you, as I put them up there, to find one that resonates in your journey and use that song to aid you in whatever you're trying to do. I received a download of the importance of us understanding a lot more of what's going on in the world than what the surface level uh, is showing us, and then to also be able to use tools um, to help us navigate. You're not helpless. You're not helpless. You know, with your awakening, with your being woke, also comes the knowledge that there are things that you can do, not only in your psychic abilities to foresee problems, to read deeper meaning into things, right, to predict things, but also in your understanding of spells and rituals and other um, spiritual forces that can be used on your behalf. We need to have a talk about the archons, which are the energies that work against you. And then there's also what you would call the angels, which are the mirror energy, the positive energies that can work for you. And when you understand these things that you can call on and these things that you can use, see, when you understand that you are God, that means that there's no longer anything else, no one you can reach out to. You have to be that responsibility. You have to operate in that space. And that's the scary part that people fear, because they would rather they have someone to pray to, someone that they can ask for assistance, but then say, oh, I thought you were God. I thought you were God. So now you have to prove to them that you are that, because you can do greater things. As Christ consciousness shared, you will do greater things. This is the greater thing. This is, when you said, when they asked them, and Christ consciousness said, you will be able to do greater things. You had what was the things that were done that I can do greater? And so the things were done that, like, the power to feed multitudes, the power to walk on water, the power to heal. You will do these things and greater things as you awaken to yourself. We need to have a better understanding of what the scriptures were actually trying to share. As it said, that God is within you, that you are God, you will do greater things. That means that when you come to the understanding of Christ consciousness, you get tapped into a lot more, and you are not subject to asking something outside of you for your assistance. We look at the passage where Christ fed a multitude, 3 loaves and some bread or some fish or whatever the hell that was. And then people say, Jesus can do everything. He can do everything. The lesson in that is that you too have accessibility to feeding multitudes, that you have the ability to help multitudes of people. You can take a little and work with it. How the rap song go? Trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. And so when you understand that, and I guess that's why a lot of people don't want to be God. I'd rather let somebody else do it. Well, then that means you stay in low vibrational energy. You're not self-aware, let alone self-responsible. So when we look at the topic, how to be free from religious slavery, I don't have anything against, and that's what I was trying to share earlier. I am probably the most spiritual person that you may encounter. I know that I know. And so when people say something uninformed about me not believing in God. I do believe in God because I believe in myself. I believe in myself, so I believe in God. But I am not going to follow your made up religious doctrine to gatekeep my connection to source. Because if I allow you to gatekeep me, why can't I be gatekept by someone else's religious belief? What makes yours ideal? That's why you have millions and millions and millions and millions of religions. They are the gatekeepers. There's only one spirituality. And I don't care how emotionally it makes you feel. I don't care how many tears you cry, how well pastor preached, how good his sermon was, how you felt it in your bones. He's only a gatekeeper preventing your full access to oneness with source. And that goes for any belief system. Oh, thank you. That goes for any belief system. We say often, if God is the source of everything, why would there only be one way to that source? There are multiple ways to that source. And not every way suits everybody. I don't want to get too far off the point. So what is a ritual? A ritual is a structure and repeated set of actions such as gestures, prayers, or ceremonies performed in a specific prescribed order to connect with source or the supernatural. There are ways of translating the abstract beliefs in your head into tangible practices. As we understand that we have psychic abilities and psychic gifts, you can say it, but you need to practice it to make it tangible in the physical world. I said often, you exist in duality. There is a physical part of you, which is governed by your lower chakras mainly. The I am, the I feel, the I do. And then you move to the heart chakra, which is your higher version of yourself. The I speak, the I see, the I know. A lot of times we have to do things physically to reinforce the intangible part of it. Thank you. I don't have any slides today. I appreciate it, and thank you for aiding, but I don't have a slide today for this. This is raw Baba here. This is gonna be raw Baba. All right, because I didn't know how to illustrate how to free yourself from religious slavery by de-ritualizing yourself, because de-ritualizing is a made-up word. We understand ritual. I'm trying to show how to de-ritualize yourself, right? Off the dome, baby. Off the dome. We're going off the dome today. I want you guys to be aware of some things that happen in this world. It is said that they have stopped. If you are a part of the United States, if you know what's been going on, there has been a program or an action called mass deportations, which was the idea of taking some people grievances, some people biases, and turning them into a tangible action for these people to vote for you. They have stopped those. That's why you haven't heard about them in the news. They no longer are going to be focused on that because economically it is not working. The PR is terrible around it, and it was never the plan. It was only to pacify a group of people to get them to vote for a certain person. You're always being lied to and misled in this system, because this system is nothing but corruption. It is the nature of earth plane to corrupt. So you won't hear much about it anymore, because it never was the plan. But you missed that, didn't you? You missed that. That slipped away from you. You forgot all about that because we're involved with a war now. And every time they want you to move on from something, they bring something else up. And their media, which is in cahoots with them, allows them to do this. That's just one example. Let's talk about the war on being woke. What actually is woke? Most people who are against being woke cannot define woke. I watched an interview where a guy, they were asking him to, and he was part of Doge, and Doge was trying to eliminate DEI. Remember that? Y'all forgot all about that. Oh my God. We done forgot all about all this stuff, Baba. We moved to the next disaster. And so they were they were laying off and firing a lot of people under the guise of DEI. And they interviewed the guy and they asked him, and he was part of Doge and he was part of eliminating DEI. And they asked him, what did DEI stand for? Out of a coma. That's what woke is. Out being. But they asked him what DEI stand for, and he did not know. He had no idea what it stood for. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. He had no idea. He was part of Doge. He had no idea. He did not know what the initial stood for. I think people are going to find out that when this is all said and done, the only thing that this was about was the biggest grift, the biggest theft of money and resources from one of the most richest nations in the world. It was a consolidation of their money, which I still believe, and I received a download, that they will not be able to keep. That is being gathered together for the meek and for those that would inherit the earth. For those who understand that those that have done the work, have risen their consciousness, have elevated their thinking, are going to be the inheritors of all this consolidation of wealth to that 1%. And it is going to be a supernatural mind blower of how all that work they've been doing, gathering up, is going to be turned over to those that are prepared to use it for the betterment of all people. You're going to find out I was right. So in the real world, there was a war on being woke. Nobody wanted to be woke, or that's what they were promoting. Now, woke actually came from our spiritual space, right? No one was using that word. And you're going to find this out. That no one was using that word except spiritual people was using that word to awaken, to be woke. And then in the real world, or this alternative corrupt world, they started to push back. You have to understand there is a almost symbolic or almost indistinguishable connection between spirituality and physicality. A lot of us operate in physicality thinking there's no spirituality. And they are indistinguishable from each other sometimes. Just like you have a consciousness, but they cannot find it anywhere in you. They can find cells, they can find blood vessels, they can find all the other stuff that are physical, but they cannot find consciousness. But we know consciousness exists. They cannot even define what consciousness is. That's a good point. That's a good point. Because you have to understand why a lot of spirituality is grounded in melanated people. And I've talked about that, right? Melanated people are often the people who have the framework, who have the framework to hold higher consciousness vibration because of the stress put on their system. We're talking about ancestral trauma. We're talking about abuse. We're talking about, it's always brought down to the most oppressive people. It doesn't work if you give higher thinking and higher values to someone who is not connected in that way. And we can talk about it in more details, but most of spiritual concepts are often connected to what you would call primitive people or more melanated, dark-skinned people because of the oppression that's placed upon them. So being woke actually means being aware of political, spiritual, and cultural conditions. That's what being woke is about. But people are yelling about woke is a negative thing. What was the thing that we don't want to be woke? What? What they saying? You don't want to be woke. We don't want to be woke. So as we become more aware, and you notice there was all this information, you guys are sending me stuff and people are sharing stuff and people are questioning things and people are wondering what's this going on. That's woke. That you don't just swallow everything you've been told. I think, as you said, Nicole, let's go back to this. They wanted to frame it as woke being a black thing because they need to find a way to root whatever they're trying to sell into a paradigm or thought of you having less than or lack of, and that someone else has got your money. To set people against each other, they need to build on that idea that these people have what is meant for you. Let me let you guys in on a secret, right? Let's take, and this is not the disparage. I just want to give you an example, right? We see America is predominantly a white culture, well, a predominantly white race, all right? And they have convinced the elites, the wealthy, the rich people. They did this with the Epstein files. They told them that, oh, we're going to reveal everything. And they had all these people up in arms about, we need to know this information. We need to know it, and you don't hear no more about it, right? Because they got what they wanted from them, right? And they have convinced that if we can put a certain segment of people in their place, that we will be better off. And I just want to share this with you. If there was no other minorities, no other blacks, no other Hispanics, no other Asians, if this was just a pure white society, there will still be poor whites. If you got everybody, you are going to still have poor whites. The only reason that there's any pushback, any help, is because of minorities fighting for it and bringing you along with it, making you aware of things, waking you up. And you like, no. If we get rid of this problem, we get rid of this, we all going to be rich and white. No, you're not. They're going to still be elites, and they're going to still be the underclass. America only works because of the minorities fighting for fair inclusion in things. And that includes you too. But you have been convinced some kind of way that if we got rid of everybody, I'm going to be like Donald Trump. Or I'm going to be like, Elon Musk. If we get rid of everybody, we're going to live good. No, you're not. You're going to still be an underclass. Look at your history. Look at England. Look at the Europeans, where there were no minorities, and you still had wars, abuse, all kinds of stuff happening. And that's crazy work, people. Crazy work. Crazy work. So, I don't want to jump all over the place, but I wanted to share something with you guys. I wanted to share something with you. And maybe it's related, but it's Freestyle Friday, so we're just talking about a bunch of stuff, right? And I came across this video, and this is what woke is about. Maybe that's the relationship. Because you just come across so many things that are interesting. We all know children. We all have babies. We have babies. We know babies. Everybody knows what a baby is, right? People pretty much know what a baby is, okay? When you teach a baby, I don't know if y'all guys saw this video, but it blew my mind. When you teach a baby to say mama or to say daddy, they say mama or daddy. How come they don't say mama and daddy? How do they know to skip the word say? That blew my mind. How do they know if they're repeating what you say? How do they know to skip the word say and just say the word that you want them to say? I'm talking about a baby that you are teaching to speak. Normally, when you're teaching someone or something to speak, they repeat the whole phrase. And you're like, no, don't say that part, say this part, right? But when you're teaching babies how to speak, why do they skip the first part and just say the words you want them to say? Don't give me nothing about visual clues or whatever you think. That's mind-blowing. It lets you in on something. You see something there that maybe they already have an understanding that they brought from a past life. That maybe they know a lot more. And as we move through this life, we forget what we knew and are retrained to what they want us to know. Something to think about. I saw that and I was interested. Yeah, why don't they say the word say? I guess that's a condition of being woke. When you question things and things seem interesting to you, if not diabolical. So I really want to get to how to be free from religious slavery by de-ritualizing yourself. And I guess all of this is related in some kind of way. But I'm just going to come straight off the domes, as one of my community member said we do on Friday. We come straight off the dome. If you don't want to think, if you don't want to expand your consciousness, don't F with me. Please don't. Please don't. I'm not going to see it. I'm not going to see it the way you've been told to see it. So maybe that statement about babies not saying say did not resonate. You don't care. But to us that are woke and curious, is like, that's interesting. Why don't they say? So as we looked at Psalms yesterday, I make the bold claim that words are spells and curses. We see in the beginning of the Christian Bible where they say in the beginning was the word. The word is a vibrational frequency. Words generate reality. And in that sense, they can be spells and curse. A curse is an invocation of a supernatural power. It can be done in writing. Does anyone know what is the form of writing they no longer teach in school? Put in the comments the form of writing that they no longer teach in school, and you should have a mind-blowing moment. Cursive. 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 They no longer teach cursive in school. And your first thought may be, oh, well, people are not going to have to sign checks anymore. Maybe that's true. But maybe the deeper meaning of that is that cursive was actually the gift or the ability to write curses. Is it just me? Am I lost in the sauce? Have I been listening to the voices too much in my head? That the root word of cursive is curse. And now not to have that ability, which immediately acts the flow and connects to the mind, being able to flow with the energy of it, that, oh, we need to stop that. As they become woke, as they become more aware, we need to strip away more of the gifts and powers that they can have access to. I'm just shooting from the hip today. I'm just some of the things I'm giving you guys access to some of the things I just I just be thinking about. What are you thinking about, Barbara? You don't want to know. You don't want to know. Sometimes I just be thinking, hearing things and just thinking. Because in that thinking, I'm looking for my freedom. And I talked about this often with people that want to be free of this matrix, but don't want to let go of the things that hold them to this matrix. You are not going to be able to tear down a system ruled by powers and principles or powers and principalities that you cannot even fathom. shape changing, mind reading, the ability to create realities. You're not prepared for that. You are not mentally capable of that. But you can do damage where you are. You can tear a brick out of a wall. You can stop participating in it in the small ways. You can stop being part of it in the ways that you can resist until you get more power and you can resist more. But if you're not willing to let go of the small things to gain more power, if you want to hold on to the small things because they feel right, you've been doing them so long. People go to church not believing anything in that church, but they go because their families have been going to that church for so long. Their abundance and prosperity has never prospered or flourished in that environment, but they continue in that environment because it's their comfort zone. And if you're not willing to let go of some of the things that made you comfortable for uncomfortability, you'll never escape the system. These are small personal battles that you can do on your own while you screaming and sharing memes and talking about all this. But what are you doing to help dismantle this system and build a new system? Just knowing things is not going to be enough. There has to be some action behind that. We're not going to run up on a building and tear it down or tear down thinking or tear down things by just sharing things with people. We have to take some action in our lives to allow our light to shine, to be a brighter signal to people. And that means being different sometimes. That means being separated apart from. So let's talk about some of the rituals that we do that keep us connected and part of supporting something that we say that has not served our higher selves. Let's start with religions. Let's start with my favorite system that needs to be dismantled, because that is the foundation of a lot of systems, be there medical or political or cultural. The religious foundation tends to be the root of everything. It is the separation from you and source, from you and understanding, through someone who gives you their understanding. I was looking at the word altar. Those that have been involved in churches or any type of religious institution are familiar with the word altar. But I think they miss the actual meaning of the word altar. Come before the altar, give it over to the altar, bow before the altar. Altar actually means to change, to modify, or adjust something slightly in appearance, character, or structure without completely replacing it. When you go before the altar, it is a symbolic spiritual process to change or modify your pure divinity and adjust it slightly. When you bow before the altar, you are agreeing to be modified, to be changed in your intent. I've already shared that you were perfect in your creation. There is nothing wrong with you in the creation of you. You were perfect and whole. And when someone told you you were less than, you allowed them to mold you and change you. If I can convince, I'm a man, I can convince any woman that something is wrong with her, and she buys into that, I can mold and change her into something that suits my needs. When she comes before the altar of Baba, we're talking about how to free yourself from religious slavery by de-ritualizing yourself. Avoid going before the altar. You shouldn't be in a church at all. If you want to commune with God, go into nature. That is where was created for you. God walked through the garden through the cool of the day. God's presence was in the garden. What does that tell us symbolically? God, divine source, exists in its creation, not in man-made objects and buildings and books. These are things that I could have done because I know the game plan. I could have built an altar, built a church. Cannot be contained. It can only be experienced. And if in the creation of men, if we are to believe their own teachings, God did not build a structure. Could have built a structure in the place that it was at. And it could have said God was sitting on his throne in his great building, and Adam and Eve came into him. You have to look at the parts that give you understanding. When we also look at the different things that they do in the church, as we de-ritualize ourselves from that limited belief system, religion serves a purpose. It is for those that are not ready to be woke. It is for those that are not ready to be in higher consciousness. Religion serves those who wish to stay enslaved to someone else's teachings. Baptism always interests me as a ritual. You see in almost every religion, especially Western religions, they have some type of baptism that takes place. There's a couple of problems that I have with baptism. I said earlier how everything mirrors the spirituality, that you cannot know what you don't know. And so anything that's been done is copied off of spiritual concepts and ideas. We talked about how woke was co-opted and used in the real world, but it was actually a spiritual term. There is a problem I have with baptism. People run, they get baptized. They get baptized. All right. But you're born through water when you're portal into this plane of existence. You've already born into water. When you rebaptize, and it's a rebaptism, because you are already born into this world. When you are being baptized, what actually happens in the physical world, baptism is a lot like drowning. It's identical to drowning. And what happens when you are drowned, right? You go through cardiac arrest. People think you drown because you take water into your system, but that water prevents oxygen from going into the bloodstream, which prevents it from being moved into the heart. You actually have a heart attack and brain damage occurs. So if someone has drowned and they resuscitated, sometimes they have brain damage too. They resuscitate the heart when you're drowned. They clear the water out of your lungs and they resuscitate the heart. Symbolically, being baptized by the church or by religions, right, is breaking your heart connection to divine source, let alone causing you mental illness. So now you really start believing that garbage they're telling you. I talked yesterday about how this one minister is perplexed, and how people can be so naive in religious scams, but yet the whole premise is that you are naive in them telling you stuff that's unbelievable. That every animal on the planet cannot fit in a ship. If you believe that, you will be subject to any type of lie or scam that comes next. And how you befuddle that people are naive when you're dealing with naive people. Yes, being baptized will cause you brain damage, spiritual brain damage. The Catholics actually store their baptismal water. That water is not poured into the sewer when they sprinkle babies. You first have to understand the nature of water. Water is a great conductor of energy. If you don't believe it, throw some electricity on the floor, put some water there, stand in that water, and watch you don't get shocked. Water is a great conductor of energy. So what they actually do is they baptize the babies, store the water. You in turn can buy the water. The water is actually sold in Catholic churches. They don't just put it in that little thing at the beginning before you give all your money and stuff. They use the water. It is not water, just plain water. That water, because it is sprinkled on babies and it runs off of babies who I have said repeatedly are the closest thing to divine source as they portal into this plane of existence. Yeah. That love that you experience from babies is the purest form of love representative of source. As babies are portal into this plane, they are still endued with that divine energy. This is why they're used a lot in spells and rituals. The younger they are, the more pure that energy is. So what the Catholics do, they actually funnel that energy and then resell it so you can do whatever you want, whatever you can with that. I'm gonna try to get to everything. It's the best. I don't know. Don't say it like that. It's the best. That energy is the best. Yeah, that energy is, whew. But that's power. Don't look at it just as a physicality. Look at it spiritually. It is power. We talk often. I don't know. I think I used to have a little reptilian in me. I used to like to bite babies' cheeks. I used to love to bite babies' cheeks. I think it's part of my reptilian. And as we talk about babies, let's talk about let's continue with the church. As we de-ritualize ourselves and start to understand that a lot of things are being performed, we are participating in, people are participating in. It is my hope that this information will get out there and people will start to think about the things they're being doing that keeps them locked into this matrix. Where my countables at? Do I have any countables in here? I got any countables? Don't tell me you're not no cannibal if you have participated in the Eucharist. If you have participated in the Eucharist, don't tell me you're not a spiritual cannibal. Also known as Holy Communion to my Baptist Christians, or the Lord's Supper. The drinking of blood and the eating of flesh with that little wafer and that little thing. We do this in remembrance of you. The eating of flesh and the drinking of blood, that don't even seem innocence. But a lot of us have participated in that ritual. You're accountable, and you are accountable. But I come to show you or to share with you that the eating of flesh and drinking of blood, known as the Eucharist or Holy Communion, that is said to be in remembrance of Christ consciousness. We as spiritual people think about Christ consciousness returning. The love of all returning to us. That is the return of Christ. Christ is returning. He's returning in each one of us as we work on ourselves, raise our vibrations, heal our trauma. The love of Christ returns. Religion says that the eating of that flesh and the drinking of that blood is a remembrance of Christ. That's the way they share it or teach it. I want to argue that that is symbolic of cannibalism. Just as I shared to you Being baptized is symbolic spiritually of being drowned and breaking your heart connection. When you symbolically eat flesh and symbolically drink water, you are practicing spiritual cannibalism. What happens when you physically eat flesh and drink blood? You receive a transmission of a fatal neurodegenerate condition that causes brain damage. That's why we don't do it. It creates brain damage. When you are spiritually doing it, repeating this process, you are causing spiritually brain damage. Most people in religions are spiritually brain damaged. They have no what? Critical thinking. Come on, man, that don't make no sense. What he's talking about. Don't tell me God could do anything. You are spiritually brain damaged because you've been symbolically eating the flesh and drinking blood. We went over a lot. To aid you in your spiritual journey, to free you from religious slavery. I expect people are going to be running with that. I love it when they run with it. I just wish that, they would credit the source. When I used to cite things in college, I would have to credit the source to show that honor to it. But you're going to be hearing a lot about religious slavery. You're going to be hearing a lot about it. And you heard it here first. Why do I have that up there? But as you work to release yourself from the matrix, oh, you know what? We have to talk about this before we go. We have to talk about this. And I've talked about this a lot. But this is something that you can do immediately if you so choose to free yourself from religious slavery. You can stop celebrating birthdays. Oh, wow. I lost everybody now. I had a friend who said they wish I would not honor their birthday. They would be so mad. The same friend has professed being freed from the matrix and escaping the conditioning that does not serve our highest need, that keeps us locked in 3D reality. If you are going to move to 5D reality, to higher states of consciousness, there is no birthday celebration. A lot of us are not going to go to 5D because we can't leave our favorite sports teams behind. There is no competition in 5D, only love and oneness with everyone. There is no him or her. So a lot of us are going to have a hard time moving to 5D because there are no Bears, Bills, or Seahawks. Let's talk about zodiacs real quick. Zodiacs are earth-based signs. Zodiacs are earth-based signs, right? You are born at a time and place. So that's an earth-based sign. But when you move to a higher state of thinking, a higher state of consciousness, you may realize that you come from some other dimension, some other planetary system. So we look at star seeds. All right. So on Gaia, you can recognize your zodiac sign, but as you move into your higher state of consciousness and realize that you have other traits, you might say you're a Lyran, a Palladian. Me, myself, I'm a Blu-ray. I am a Gemini, but that's just my earth sign. That's where I was born on Gaia at the time and place that placed me on the Gemini. But as I raise my consciousness, I start to understand that I had another connection. And that connection was to what we call the Blu-ray consciousness. I hope that explained that. But as I was saying, there are no birthdays in 5D. Birthdays do nothing but rush you through your life cycle. You're quite welcome. Birthdays do nothing but rush you through your life cycle. The act of even blowing out the candle is a ritual to extinguish your light. Do you ever wonder why we do things? Does anyone but me wonder why we do certain things? Why do we blow out candles? It symbolically is extinguishing your light and pushing you faster to death, so you can be recycled back in, reincarnated, before you have learned the lessons you need to learn to move to higher states. There are no birthdays in 5D. If you want to start to prepare to go to 5D reality, to be in that energy, that consciousness that serves your highest good, that is beautiful, that is free from pain and free from suffering, you have to let go of what holds you in 3D. It's that simple. 4D is the process of hearing my voice, learning this, and moving and stripping away all that is keeping you from the highest version of yourself, your conscious evolution to 5D. And there are things that you can do that are practical by releasing the programming that keeps you trapped here. It is not about not honoring people, not celebrating people. You should celebrate people every day. You should give people their flowers when they can receive them. Every day is your unbirthday. Can we put that in the chat? Every day is your unbirthday. And that is the day we will celebrate. I don't care if you call it a solar cycle return or whatever day you call it. If you are being rushed through your life cycle, you cannot learn the things that you need to learn in a timely manner. It's like moving a child to different grades without them understanding what you were teaching them in the prior grade. And we're here to learn. So every day in 5D is your unbirthday, because you are celebrated, you are honored, and you are loved on every day, that you don't need a special day, an egocentric day. I used to give my children gifts and presents and things they wanted throughout the years, so there was no special day that we had to do anything for them. They had it. Why would I wait and make you wait for something you want? And then promise you, if you're good, if I control you, then you will get it from me. Love the people. Practice loving people daily. Practice loving your children daily, honoring them daily. There's no anniversaries, there's no birthdays, and none of that, because the love is constant. This is what we're trying to move to, a constant feel of love. Let me say this in closing. When you go to your church and you go to your religious institution and you ask your minister about heaven and when you die or unalive, or whatever you want to call it, ask them, will you still be able to celebrate your birthday or your death day? Maybe they celebrate death days. This is the day I died. I remember I died and I came to heaven. Let me close with this. We can do things right now in our own beings that help free us from the systems that are oppressive and that are controlling and keep us in a state of fear and lack and suffering. We can do things on our own. And as you do these small things, opportunities to do larger things come to you. And that energy grows in the collective. And then we move the consciousness of the planet into a state of love, connection with all. Well, I think that was it for me. I'm surprised we had so much to share. Well, I had so much to share, but I'm always honored and grateful for the Conscious Collective to allow me to share this information with you, that hopefully it'll aid you in your life journey. Something said will assist you in becoming the highest version of yourself. I'm waiting for this lag. People usually say, bye, Baba, but Baba be gone already. There you go. There you go. Love and light. Love and light. Okay, I was waiting for it because usually I look back and on the end of the stream and the chat still come in and I'm like, oh, I feel rude. Baba be gone. Y'all be like, oh, thank you, Baba. I appreciate it. Thank you. And then Baba be gone, so I don't want to be rude. But I am wrapping this up. We always say 4 things in our closing. I truly appreciate you guys. You guys don't know. I got a surprise for you Monday. All right. My goal is to build a community and connect with community and connect with each other. And I know we're separated by spaces and stuff. Thank you. Thank you. I know we're separated by space. And so I'm working on something that's going to bring us closer together. All right. So I want to say love, light, and health and wealth in your life journey. Everyone have a great day.